Everybody, it's Peter Schiff, and it is Friday the 13th, 2010. Well, this week capped the end of a 9-week losing streak for the dollar index. It was very strong this week. In fact, I'm told it was the strongest week for the dollar in about 2 years. Now, the greenback got a lot of help from the Bank of China, which intervened heavily in the foreign exchange markets to prop up the dollar and suppress the RMB. And I'm sure that that spilled over into other currencies. You know, none of the news that we got this week was dollar bullish, including news today that Iran is going to begin selling oil in any currency that the buyer wants to use, not simply U.S. dollars. And there was all sorts of weak economic data that came out during the week, which is dollar bearish. But the weakness in stocks ended up sending flight to so-called quality money into the dollar. Again, I saw this rally coming. It's actually a little stronger. I thought that the dollar index would get up around 82. It's actually closer to 83. We'll see if there's any follow-through next week. I still feel that this rally will fade quickly as the negatives are lining up very quickly for the dollar. One of the most big negatives was on Thursday, the unemployment claims, which shot up a lot more than expected. And, you know, unemployment is going to be an increasing problem here in the United States for two reasons. One is because the government is destroying the ability of the economy to create productive jobs. You know, when you have an enormous government that is spending so much money, it is depriving the private sector of the resources that it needs to provide employment opportunities. You know, also by preventing the economy from restructuring, by artificially propping up home prices, by keeping interest rates too low, by adding new rules and regulations into the economy, it is preventing the transition that we need and the jobs that we need from coming into existence. So as long as the government is stimulating, they will be destroying employment opportunities. And so more and more people are going to be unemployed. But at the same time they're destroying job creation or inhibiting job creation, they are also creating powerful incentives for people not to want to work in the first place. One of those incentives is in the form of unemployment compensation. Now, when you have unemployment benefits that are finite, when they only last for about 20 weeks, they do create marginal disincentives for people to work, but only very marginally, because people know that the unemployment benefits are going to run out. And maybe it means that they won't accept the first job offer that they get. They might hold off for something better. They do know that they have to get something because when the benefits run out, they're out of luck. So they do try to get a job. But when you create the impression that unemployment is permanent, that you might be able to collect unemployment benefits until you get a job, no matter how long you wait, you create a very powerful disincentive for people to work, especially when the jobs that they're offered aren't as well, don't pay as much as unemployment benefits. And, you know, I got into an argument with one of the people on an editorial board when I suggested that many people would prefer unemployment to work. And he said, that's impossible. Everybody wants to work. Well, I don't think so. I mean, there are some jobs that are very gratifying and fulfilling, but I think a lot of people don't work because they want to. They work because they have to. They work for the money, not for the pleasure of working. That many people, if they can collect a paycheck and not show up, that's what they would do. You know, when people win the lottery, the first thing they do is quit their jobs. In fact, one of the reasons that people want to retire is because they can stop working. Well, unemployment is now a form of early retirement. I mean, now you have unemployment benefits going for 2 years, and of course the politicians refuse to object to doing anything to deny the unemployed their unemployment checks. You know, it's becoming a new entitlement. I mean, people said that Social Security was the third rail of politics. Well, it's becoming unemployment. And of course, at some point, if we continue on this path, the number of people collecting unemployment checks will outnumber those collecting Social Security checks. We're going to create a permanent class of unemployed people. And if the unemployment checks themselves are not as big an incentive. Oh, and first of all, you know, there was an article this week on the Wall Street Journal pointing this out, pointing out how many companies are having a hard time filling low-paying jobs. They can't find any workers because the workers would rather collect unemployment. And I know personally from talking to businessmen that even when people do show up for these low-paying jobs, they demand to be paid off the books because they don't want to give up their unemployment benefits. And if the employers are not willing to employ them in that manner, then they can't find somebody. But even worse than the unemployment benefits is this new plan by Obama to bail out unemployed homeowners who are delinquent in their mortgages and who owe more on their mortgage than their house is worth. This is the geniuses. This is actually dumber than cash for clunkers. Here's what they want to do. If you have no job and you haven't made your mortgage payment in 3 months and you owe more than your house is worth, the government will loan you an additional $50,000 over the course of the next 2 years. And you can use the money, I guess you can draw down the line of credit, and you can use the money to make your mortgage payments, both principal and interest, also property taxes and insurance. And I guess it amounts to about $2,000 a month. Now, it's a zero-interest loan, and it's non-recourse, which means if you walk away from the mortgage, you don't owe the money back. I mean, they can't garnish your wages or take it from your stock portfolio. It's a non-recourse loan. Now, remember, these are loans to people who are already underwater. So now, after they borrow an additional $50,000, they'll be $50,000 deeper underwater, which only increases the incentive to walk away and allow the house to go into foreclosure. So it's really a gift. But think about it. You have to be unemployed to qualify. So if you're unemployed, and here in Connecticut, you can get, let's say, $500 a week on unemployment, which is $2,000 a month. The government says, hey, if you're a homeowner and you're delinquent, we'll give you another $2,000 a month tax-free because you don't have to pay income taxes on that. That's a loan. And, of course, you can still deduct your property taxes and your mortgage interest. Even though the government gave you the money to pay for it, you still get the write-off, which you can use to eliminate the taxes on your unemployment benefits, which also are taxed. They don't have any payroll taxes. So if you're going to get $4,000 a month, basically tax-free, being unemployed, I mean, how much would that person have to get offered to take a job? I mean, would he take a $5,000 a month job, which is $60,000 a year? I wouldn't. I'd rather take the $4,000 tax-free on unemployment. And, of course, when you think about the cost of a job, I mean, that you can't deduct, what about the cost of going to and from work, the transportation, oil, gas, wear and tear on your car? What about having to eat lunch in a restaurant? What about dry cleaning your suits and your shirts? What about childcare? What if you have to, pay for childcare? And of course, what is leisure worth? What is it worth having to give up all your free time? Being able to travel, being able to enjoy time with your kids, hang out on the beach, watch television, pick up a hobby, whatever you want to do. If you can get all this money being unemployed, why wouldn't you do it? And of course, if you're a homeowner and you have a job and you're struggling to make your mortgage payment, and the government says if you lose your job, not only could you get unemployment benefits indefinitely, but we're also going to pay your mortgage for you and your property taxes and your insurance. I mean, that's a powerful incentive to lose your job on purpose. Yeah, and who in Washington is going to stand up for this? I mean, sure, forget about the fact that we're adding to the deficit in order to make these payments. And of course, the money that we're doling out for people to make their mortgage payments, that's again, more money down the drain. And what about the morality of this or the constitutionality? The government is going to be taxing renters, right? So people can continue to live in houses that they can't afford, or people who own houses that they can't afford. If people are unemployed and they lose their home to foreclosure, it doesn't mean they're homeless. It simply means that they go rent a home that they can actually afford to live in. What this thing does is keep people in homes they can't afford. It perpetuates people to own homes where they have negative equity, where they have no incentive to maintain them, so the houses depreciate even further, so the losses are even bigger when they do go into foreclosure. And we create this perverse incentive where we reward people for not working, we punish people for working, we reward people who borrowed too much and made bad decisions, and we reward them with the money taken from people who made better decisions, who were frugal. I mean, what's going to be next to bail out people with credit card debt and auto loans? I mean, this thing is insane. Only in Washington could they come up with such an idiotic policy. Anyway, it's almost 10 minutes. I guess that's it for now, everybody. Have a great weekend, and I will be back again soon. Take care.